Good morning. Celtic playing Raith Rovers tonight. Mr. Tony Haggerty, League Cup quarter-final. It's a big game, although it's coming with a real lack of fanfare. But it's a cup quarter-final, no matter who the opposition is. The opportunity here for Celtic to get to Hampden and the final four of a national competition. You weren't suffering from sleep paralysis last night, were you, with Gordon Dalziel and Stevie Crawford standing at the foot of your bed?
No, but for those of a certain vintage, it does send shivers up the spine for those that were maybe at Ibrox that day, which I was, when McStay missed a penalty in the Coca-Cola Cup final and the world came crashing in, and the roof caved in Celtic. But yeah, it's always one of those that you do shudder when you think about that, but totally different time now. And as you say, I think Celtic should be more than capable of taking care of Raith Rovers, but it's jolts like that you realise that nothing is impossible in football, Andy, and Celtic need to be on their game, and he has to play a strong team tonight to get the job done and be professional about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Pep Guardiola that's in the press this morning saying that he thinks that Man City should be able to put their 23s into the League Cup. I think if a Celtic manager said that, there would be uproar, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, a strong team is very much necessary, because if Celtic do underestimate Raith Rovers, you only get one shot. Just look at what happened with Ross County last season.
Yeah, and it's a respect thing. You treat every competition with the reverence and respect it deserves. You want to win every competition. It's in the DNA, history and the nature of Celtic, a club like Celtic. So you field your strongest teams at all times and the strongest players that you have, strongest and fittest players that you have available. That's my thoughts on it. You tinker with the team, or you make too many changes, or you play an understrength or a youthful team, then you can get what's coming to you in those situations. If you try to be too smart, and I get that you want to rest players, but players will always want to play. These are the games that players want to play in, in order to, as you say, book a Hampden place and stake their claim for a place in a possible semi-final of a national competition,
Yeah, it's a good point, I think, because there are some players that hit the ground running when they signed in the summer. Furuhashi, of course, he won't be involved tonight. He's injured. Leila Bada hit the ground running as well, whereas Giakoumakis has come in, hasn't played yet. He's in the squad for tonight. And Jota has looked good in flashes, I would say. I suppose both of them might see tonight as an opportunity, with respect to Raith Rovers and all that, they might see tonight as an opportunity to go and really make their mark and stake their claim.
Oh, without a doubt. And also, I think the Celtic fans will be delighted that Giakoumakis is on the bench, because I think if it all goes to plan, then they might see Giakoumakis, and I think they're interested to see what he'll bring to the party and bring to the table. And it might be the kind of game that will suit Giakoumakis, bringing him on for X amount of time against Raith Rovers. But you only need to look at Aberdeen, who came a cropper against Raith Rovers, who came from behind to beat Aberdeen. So nothing is a certainty in football, Andy. But you look at the way Celtic have played at Celtic Park since the season started, you can't see anything other than a Celtic win. But Raith Rovers have a chance, because they've already put out Scottish Premiership opposition in the last round, and they won't be scared. They'll come, and I hesitate to use the words free hit, but they'll come and enjoy the occasion, and probably heightened a wee bit more by the fact that there'll be no Raith Rovers fans there. So regardless of what you think of these kind of things, I hate that. I don't think that's fair.
It seems very strange, Tony, because I understand that Celtic want to use the stadium to relocate fans over into that area, but surely that won't be necessary. I know it's a cup quarter final, but even if you look at the previous round against Hearts, I don't think there was even 45,000 there. And if you look at the Dunfermline and Partick League Cup ties over recent seasons, then there was fewer than 30,000 there. So I'm sure there will be a crowd, but I don't think there is enough to warrant that, really, to say to Raith Rovers, no, you can't have anyone.
I think we should be able to accommodate any Raith Rovers fan that wants to attend that match. I just don't see the point in it. I think it's unnecessary, but a decision's been taken. And, these kind of things fire up players, Andy. Don't care what anybody says. John McGlynn, former Celtic scout, really good Raith Rovers manager and manager at previous clubs as well. Get a good pedigree, decent track record, so you'll have them well fired up to go out there and enjoy the occasion and don't just turn up and be cannon fodder. Make a game of it. And I've got a feeling that Raith Rovers will do that.
Well, Celtic will be without Callum McGregor again. There are a few players that won't be involved. Some on the longer term scale. I suppose Greg Taylor is included in that. Kyogo Furuhashi won't be back for another couple of weeks. We don't really know about Karamoko Dembele and Julian yet. That seems to change on a weekly basis, it feels like. James Forrest and Carol Starfelt won't be added back to the squad either. So yeah, it's more thin than thick still at the moment.
It's very threadbare at Celtic at the minute, isn't it? In terms, but we've covered it a few times about the transfer window. Was it good or bad, and did they bring in enough? You have to say the answer to that is no. But injuries are part and parcel of football, Andy. It happens. You know, they didn't bank on it happening at the one time, especially to key players like McGregor and Kyogo. But you have to make do. You have to get on with it. And I think what Ange Postecoglou knows, and he's well aware, and the Celtic supporters are well, you have to find a way to win football matches. You know, and as you said at the top of the programme there, it's become a wee bit more fraught than it probably ought to have needed to be because of Sunday. And I think the nature of Sunday and the pretty insipid performance, you know, not saying Celtic fans are utterly nervous about it, but there's still that wee bit of doubt there about tonight. Whereas had Celtic played anything like the way they've played this season, the Celtic fans would be predicting another 5 or 6 goal victory. But nobody's saying that about tonight, and quite rightly so, because Celtic were very poor on Sunday. You know, so they have to bounce. You know, you have to show that you've got something in your locker to bounce back from setbacks. This is the first chance they've got. Placing a National Cup semi-final at stake, go and grab it.
Celtic have come up short a couple of times. That this is just strictly in the League Cup anyway, against opposition that you'd expect them comfortably to beat. Morton was only about 8 years ago, maybe. Falkirk was about 5 years before that. So look, it's a rarity. But as you said just a minute ago, Tony, anything's possible in football. All it takes is for the game to be tight. With 15, 20 minutes ago, Raith Rovers break forward, win a corner and score from it. You know, you just never really know what is going to happen in football. So I can understand, to be honest, why some Celtic fans would have nerves about it, because the last 3 weeks, I suppose, hasn't been the rip-roaring style that you spoke of.
Yeah, and of course you see the longer it goes, Andy, and if it's scoreless, you can actually picture and hear those sharp intakes of breath, can't you, every time Raith go forward, and you can picture and see the nerves and stuff, you know. And I don't expect it to be a nervy occasion. I'm just saying that there's a chance that might happen, but I fully expect Celtic to win. Whether they win convincingly or not, I'm not sure. But a lot of eyes will be on the performance to see what kind of Celtic come out the traps after Sunday, you know. So and it's and in that sense, as you rightly said, it is a big game for Celtic now. You know, they can't afford any complacency or any slip-ups, you know, because they'll be out of cup competition if that happens.
I think the window, the midfield area was the one that was left fairly light at the end of the window. I think 8 or 9 out of every 10 Celtic fans would say, okay, probably needed another centre mid in there. Whether it was probably not a deep lying one because McCarthy had been brought in and McGregor was being played there and Sorrell's also there, but someone that can play as an 8, as if you can define it by numbers now, somebody to play either where David Turnbull or Tom Rogic is, and somebody that is in the press in the last couple of days is young Robertson, Scott Robertson, who's down at Crewe, and he's getting absolute rave reviews from his saying that he's been the best player for the team the last 3 games on the trot, talking about how good his character is, about his attitude and how much he takes things in. He's like a sponge. I wonder if this is the sort of game, and yes, totally agree with you that Premiership sides should go full strength against Championship teams because you never know what can happen. But you would trust, I think, Robertson to be able to perform in a Celtic team with more seasoned pros around them. And I wonder if this is the sort of game that you might think, well, why did Celtic actually let him go for a full season?
Yeah, my comparison to that would actually be Callum McGregor, who was allowed to go to Notts County, wasn't he? Very early in his development, and it made Callum McGregor the player he was. Because I think at the time he was there, he starred in a Notts County team alongside the likes of Jack Grealish, I'm sure the two of them were in that same team, you know. So I think, you know, there is no substitute for playing games, Andy. And if Scott Robertson is going to be a part of Celtic, then he has to play football matches to toughen up and get used to the footballing environment, you know. But I've read about him and he is earning rave reviews, and you do say, well, who's made that decision, you know? But he's going to come back with a full season of football under his belt, and if he is going to make it, then that'll be the time to say, right, we can now trust you. You know, I think it's just the experience thing that stops a lot of these young players coming in. But how do you get experience? You have to play football matches. That's the bottom line. And if they're not trusted to play at this level at Celtic, go and play at a decent level. And the boy's shining now, you know. So I think if he does well up until January, Celtic might, I don't know if they could wriggle out of that and maybe get him back in January or something like that. If they really feel that he's progressed to a point where he could push for a place in Celtic starting lineup. But I get what you mean. But if he stays the distance, then he'll come back at, you know, a seasoned campaigner and at a decent level and maybe ready to stake his claim. But again, it goes back to the decision who let him go in the first place.
I totally agree with you that when you're at that stage of your late teens, early 20s, you have to be playing football. But it doesn't, to me, seem like a completely closed door, Celtic's midfield at the moment, because apart from Turnbull and Rogic, there aren't really many that seem ready to step into that role, especially with Christie having gone now, right? So just having a quick look, I suppose Liam Shaw is somebody that maybe could work his way into an opportunity there. Young Henderson, he's a decent player with the ball at his feet in the midfield position. So those two, along with Robertson, seem to be the next ones on the conveyor belt for that position in front of the deepest lying midfielder.
No, I agree. You know, when you look at it and these kind of players like Robertson go out and they do well, you do say, who sanctioned that? You know, surely if this guy was that good, he would be pushing, or he should have been in and around the fringes of the first team just to actually have a look at him and see what he's got. You know, and I do think that because of the nature of the window, Celtic were light in the midfield areas. It might have been wise to keep a hold of him rather than, as you say, sanction a season long loan. That's quite a commitment. I can understand to January to see if you're progressing, but the actual season long loans are, you know, that for me says a lot, that they maybe thought at that time he wasn't ready, but he has shown within a few weeks that he's getting rave reviews, as you say. So he's clearly got ability and he's got something about him.
Right. Ange Postecoglou has suggested that it won't be a start for Giakoumakis. If Celtic are winning, if spots and maybes, Tony, because we never know what's going to happen. If Celtic are winning with 20 minutes to go, do you feel expect him to be given a run out?
Oh yeah, you have to. I think that's the plan. That's why he's on the bench. I think Ange Postecoglou thinks that Celtic are maybe going to be at some point comfortable in this game, where he can maybe let them loose for 20, 25 minutes, maybe even half an hour, and rest some guys for Sunday. You know, so I really do think that, and the Celtic supporters are, you know, they want to see Giakoumakis. A lot of them wondered why they signed him when he wasn't ready to go. You know, first team ready and straight into the side. But it's been a wee wait. But you know, he'll get some action tonight. I'm convinced of that, and then Celtic supporters can see what he's got. And I think it's tailor-made for Giakoumakis to come on and have a 20-minute cameo, you know, and just get the feel for the place and his player, you know, his teammates and stuff, and hopefully he can come on and even score and just get himself off to a flyer as well.
I suppose, well, Volleyball and Golly played at the weekend, but I suppose with the injury, you could say it's tailor-made, maybe, for Scales to come in and get a game at left back. I know that it's either left centre back or left back. It's kind of up in the air really about what his or what the intentions are with him. But do you think that this is an opportunity for him then to come in and make his debut?
Very much so. It depends on the manager's thinking. That this is, I think in light of Sunday, he'll be wary of making a lot of changes. You know, I think had they won on Sunday, then he might have been tempted to rest a few players and go with, you know, guys that have come in the window like Scales. But I think, again, another new signing, the Celtic supporters are desperate to see him, see what he's got. Can you hear my dogs?
Is that, are they trying to share their opinion here?
I think they are, yeah. Give me a second. Hey, quiet, enough. Sorry about that.
Is that them being told?
That's them being told, yeah. See if they listen. But yeah, I think Scales is one of those that Celtic supporters want to see what he can bring to the party as well. Because he came from Shamrock Rovers, I thought, first team ready. He was fit, ready to play. So he just seems to have disappeared since he came in the door. So again, another one who probably could feature tonight, but depends on the manager's thinking. He brought Bolingoli in from the cold, so he'll maybe do the same with Scales and just give him an introduction to see what it's like.
There is still plenty, loads and loads, miles, in fact, of goodwill for Ange Postecoglou, despite this wee bump in the road that he's suffering quite early with Celtic. I think everyone is still keen to see how his side develops and what he can do with the players that he's decided to bring in and has at his disposal. Yeah. If Celtic are knocked out of the Cup by Raith Rovers, does that become immediately threatened?
The pressure ramps up if they get knocked out of the Cup by Raith Rovers. Let's not kid yourself. I think that the Celtic supporters have given him, and he mentioned himself, there's been enough goodwill there, and the supporters are buying into what he's attempting to do. But any Celtic manager knows, Andy, you have to win football matches. Supporters will not put up with a 50% record in the league, no away wins in 3 games already this season, and then get knocked out by Raith Rovers. There is a breaking point or an exhaustion point, and it's a lot of people are saying it's a transitional season for Celtic, and I get that, but Celtic don't do transitional seasons. They have to be competitive in every competition they enter, and you can transition, but you can still transition and win football matches. If you get what I mean, you are Celtic Football Club. The DNA is to win football matches. You have a squad usually strong enough to beat most teams, bar one, because you're in competition with one team, really, aren't you? Let's go down to brass tacks about it. So to lose to Raith Rovers is just, I don't think it's in the equation. It's not in Andy's mind. It's not in the supporters' minds. But the worm will quickly turn if that eventuality happens. I just don't see it happening. But again, nothing's impossible in football. And whilst I hate words like transition and projects, and I get that there's a strategy and a way of playing, and he's trying to instill that. But whilst you're trying to instill that, you've still got players that are capable of winning football matches. And when you're not winning football matches, that's when the criticism will come. I know these things take time, but in the interim, whilst you're doing all of this, you have to win. You're at Celtic. That's the bottom line. And I think Sunday was the first time I'd heard rumblings of discontent because of the insipid nature of the display. Where they couldn't even get a point, which would have been a fair enough result in terms of the table. Rangers dropped 2 points, played not great, and still extended the lead over Celtic at the top of the table. So I think that's what annoyed Celtic supporters a lot on Sunday, that they just the nature of the display, because I think Ange himself said that the away performances, as much as they've not garnered results, had been okay, and he had a point there, but he didn't have a point on Sunday because the nature of that display was awful, and I think the supporters recognise that too.
Well, it's a cup game tonight, so the performance, I suppose, would be a bonus. It's all about winning in the cup. It's the way that I've always seen it in cup competitions. You only get one chance to get through to the next round, and the result is far more important than trying to build on performances. So we'll see if Celtic can get it over the line one way or the other, whether it's 1-0 or 6-0 or something in between. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow morning, Tony. All right, cheers.
I'm going to gag my dogs. Cheers, Andy. Thanks for that.